morning, everyone. Just a couple of minutes before noon, Ron Nicoletti along with Ashley Mayu, and the start of the Flamingo Festival and a new surface here at Gulfstream Park.
Yeah, history today. Our first Tapeta races will be over the Tapeta, 4 of them, in fact. So it's exciting to be part of this. Looking forward to more in the winter when we have all 3 surfaces on a race card, but really exciting, and it's going to be interesting for us to handicap these races. I think there's going to be some big payouts over the next few weeks here.
You would think, and we have we're going to be offering you some statistics about sires for Tapeta, trying to help both of us out, not just you, us guys, do handicapping for the first time. And Ashley's got a little bit of a head start. She does some handicapping up there in Canada, and they use, of course, the Tapeta surface. So, by the way, the main track is fast. Tapeta is always fast.
Yeah, that's the great thing about it. When we get rainfall, we get moisture, it drains way better than the other 2 surfaces that we have. So nice to have that consistency.
8 race card today. So in race number 3, we have a $350,000 jackpot guaranteed pool in the Rainbow Six. Today might be the day to play it, especially if you got some, interest in these Tapeta races that you can figure them out. And so with that said, the first race is a mile and the 16th on the Tapeta. These are claimers 3 and up, non-winners of 2 in life, 12-5 down to $10,000. No scratches in the race, and you have an early pick 5 ticket you put together.
Yeah, this pick 5 sequence, I thought about going hefty, but nope, $36 as usual. I do spread in the opener. My long shot of the day is in here, the number 2 Farm Boy. Also use the 3 Holy Meister and the 5 Brett's World, which I think appear to be logical horses on paper. Race 2 are on the main track, $35,000 maiden claimers, 2-year-old fillies. I used 2 in here, the number 3 Chestnut Checkers and the 7 Anna's Dream. Some interesting stats there for Saffie Joseph Jr. with the number 7. Race 3, 2 deep. This is 5.5 furlongs on the Tapeta. I'll use the number 4, Wow Tappet, and the 9, Designed to Dazzle. Race 4, 2 deep in there as well. Between the number 3 and the 5, I give a slight edge to the 3. And then it wraps up again on the Tapeta going 5.5 furlongs. And I spread in here. I use 3 runners overall. The number 1, Strategy Queen, looks intriguing, as well as the first-time starter for Todd Pletcher, the number 4, Alarm Clock. And I also use the Antonio Sano entry, the number 6, Lady Pucci. So pretty interesting races just in general. I did take some coverage in the Tapeta races, though.
$36, and the current favorite up there right now is the number 6 Emoji Guy. Before we get to that horse, Brett's World is debuting, of course, like a lot of horses today on the Tapeta, after highlighting his versatility. He was second on the turf 3 starts back, second in the slop 2 starts back, and beating a half length. We're going to show you that race right now by a repeat winner, Kachu, that's we seem to be talking about. It seems like he's a common thread in all these races, and I thought he ran pretty good in here, Brett's World. So, he's versatile. He's shown he can handle all different surfaces, and he runs a really good race. And like I said, Kachu had come back and won again, and another race came out of that. A horse came out of that race and won too. So keying off that, I thought Brett's World might be the logical one.
Yeah, Brett's World's interesting too, because after he broke his maiden, he kind of had trouble for a little bit. He was in $20,000 claimers, wasn't faring well in his last 3 cracks at the 12-5 level. He's been there every step of the way. He figures to be forwardly placed. When I think when you start looking at this being the first Tapeta race, I think just to see, I think you'd rather be a little closer to the pace than further back. That would be my gut instinct here. So I used Brett's World in my top 3 and had him in that early pick 5.
And I know you had your long shot already. At 15-1 on the board, I'm liking this, and that is Farm Boy. And we, as you said before we came on, you're going to race without the Lasix this afternoon for its Tapeta debut.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the no Lasix move. Obviously, when I handicapped, I thought he was going to stay with Lasix. He's raced with Lasix in all 3 of his career starts. Now, the interesting thing with him is on debut, he didn't show too much, but he was kind of bumped around in there. Second time out, though, he was third. He only missed by a length and a quarter. He kind of sat third throughout, and he ran into some traffic in the stretch. He graduated last time out going 7.5 furlongs on the turf. Front End Fashion was able to take them gate to wire, so I think he's another one that should be forwardly placed. I'm a fan of Diane Marici, 15% at this previous meet. And the other thing to mention, she does well with winners last time out. I know that has to do with one of her big horses in her barn who just wins left and right here. But Farm Boy seems to be training as well, so I'm going to give him a shot on top.
Yeah, I think you had picked Farm Boy in the past a couple of
just the last 2 times. So they were good performances.
No, then the horse figures in. I actually have him on my ticket a little further down. The current code 2-1 favorite right now with the yellow number is Emoji Guy, who's stretching out to the about mile in the 16th distance. Now, this is the about distance of a mile in the 16th on the Tapeta. He came off the layoff. He got beat in the neck against Simla, going to 1 mile in the slop. It's Kathleen O'Connell, Edwin Gonzalez, second start off the bench.
I don't use Emoji Guy in here. I'm not sure what to do with him in general, and I'll explain why. I mean, last time out, he was second. If you like Brett's World, you make the argument Emoji Guy finished right in front of him last time out. But it was a race carted for the turf, moved to the main track, and it was sloppy. Prior to that, he really didn't show much. He had one crack at the 12.5 level, 2 starts back. He didn't fare well in there, went off at 6-1. His form had been inconsistent for several starts. So last time out, he raced on the dirt. I don't know what that means for him. I know when they first started dropping him earlier this year, I used him a couple times. I'm a woman scorned. So I'm going to take a wait-and-see approach on Emoji Guy.
Holy Meister, used in third.
Holy Meister, I mean...
Second, excuse me.
This is another one you can make a case for. Pretty consistent in his career, 6 for 8 in terms of in the money. Last time out, certainly disappointed, took a lot of respect in there, was not favored, but was second choice. Showed some early foot and tired. Now, that was going a mile on the dirt over the mud, so you can make the argument, well, he doesn't like the main track. Prior to that, he had a 78 Beyer speed figure when he broke his maiden against $35,000 claimers. He was claimed out of there, now is in that new barn. I don't really know what to, do with him off of that race. It was such a good performance, but the other argument is it was back in April.
Well, I'm so happy to have Tapita here now because I want to figure out if it is true that horses that run well on the turf translate that to the Tapita surface. We're going to get to see that over the next couple of weeks, and you're just going to see how that actually happens. I hear that all the time, but I never seen any statistics on it, so we'll be certainly keeping those statistics as the meet moves on here. It's really going to be exciting to see how these races play out. We don't know if it's going to be speed, stalkers, closes, and that's the beauty of it. As you mentioned at the top, you can make some big bucks today. And
that's what I think is going to happen. I think there's going to be some confusion. I mean, we haven't run a race on it yet, so we don't even know what to expect. So hopefully that makes everyone some money, including us.
Let's go to second race. This one is on the main track at 5.5 furlongs. These are maiden claiming filly 2-year-olds. $35,000. Did have a scratch in here of the number 1 horse earlier in the day. You went with the number 3, Chestnut Checkers, who's dropping a notch in the maiden scale. Hit the board in the trio of sprints at the 50 level for Dave Brady.
Yeah, for me, it's the class relief. I think when you look at her races, her best race, in my opinion, was the debut, was at the $25,000 level. Her newer connections, once they claimed her out of there, put her in for the $50,000 tag. And it's not that she didn't fare well, but she's often found herself kind of missing, hitting that late gear. 5.5 furlongs, she's raced at it before, not too concerned about it. But for me, the class relief from the 50 to 35 might be enough.
We got our exacta flip-flop. The number 7, Anna's Dream, is dropping to this 35 level today. Broke from an outside post. That was post 12. Pressed the pace. Faded. That was her special weight debut for Saffie Joseph Jr. I believe you have a stat here with?
Yeah, let's take a look at this stat. So I was kind of doing some digging throughout the program. I thought this was an interesting angle. This might be one of my craziest numbers I found so far. So I just looked at turf to dirt, also with the maiden special weight to maiden claiming drop. There's a lot of kind of motion here with this horse. Past 2 years, Saffie's 5 for 11, 45%. 9 for 11 in the money, 82% with a $3.65 ROI. So Anna's Dream has a lot of numbers maybe backing her in this spot. You look at the debut, we talk about it, Saffie 2-year-olds, first time out, they need a race, and I think looking at that stat, that really proves it as well.
Yeah, and I mean, these are the logical too. Underneath, I used in third, Icy Rain, who's the daughter of Frosted, debuting for Tim Ham with a string of solid workouts showing up at Palmetto. He's actually got a couple of bullets at 5 furlongs, not a lot of horses at the distance, and 1.5 miles. So this horse seems to be working well. Tim, a little snake bit at the spring summer meet. Yeah. Maybe he turns around this at the start of the Flamingo Festival.
Yeah, and you mentioned a lot of bullet workouts. She's had a lot of workouts in the month of August and September, but they've been pretty strong. I like that she's debuting for $35,000. I feel like a lot of his horses, I should say, did debut in the maiden special weight ranks. I went with a different horse, also 8-1 on the morning line, the number 5, Rough Enough, who really didn't show much in those first 2 career starts, but last time on the cut back to 5 furlongs was third, only missed by a length and a half at 23-1 behind Sneaky Cheeky, who's my best bet later. So I thought Rough Entry might be a nice horse to use in the exotics.
Well, that is how we see the first 2. Take the short break, come back, I'll show you my Rainbow 6 ticket. Is it going to be 43.20 with these new surfaces?
No, that's my guess.
In the 2 path.
Welcome back to Gulfstream today, the Flamingo Festival, race number 3, about 5.5 furlongs on the Tapeta for maiden claiming filly 2-year-olds, $16,000. Let's check out my $43.20 ticket. And I just went too deep in here, and I used the two I think you used, and that is I used Designed to Dazzle and Wow Tap It. I'm going to show you a race. That horse sort of ran okay on the sloppy going last time out. 3 deep, I got lots of coverage in race number 4 with Bionic Bottle. Takes 2 to Wiggle, silver package. In race number 5, Alarm Clock looks pretty good in there. Not this time. We looked up the Tapeta breeding on the sire. It gets like an A+. One of the horses, and of course it's Todd Pletcher. And then as we get in race number 7, I thought it was a little more formful. Used Light Fury in race 7 with Valmy now, trained by Ronnie Spatz. And then the last race, I mean, I can understand a lot of people may be singling the number 9 Calidad on the main track, but I also used the 8 in there, Frost. This.
Yeah, looking at your sequence, I really think in race 7 it comes down to Light Fury and Valmy now, the 3 and the 4. Race 6 made me giggle. My best bet is not in your top 3, and that's my single in the late pick 4. And then to wrap things up, I think you're spot on. I do think a lot of people will choose to maybe single the number 9 Calidad. Just like you, I couldn't single. I decided to use another horse in there as well. And you have to hope if you're alive at that point that probably Calidad does get beat just for the payout aspect of it.
I'm going to start it off, as I mentioned, with the number 9, Designed to Dazzle, who's dropping to the 16 level today, breaking from the outside this afternoon. Really broke from the outside last time from post 12. Chased the winner, finished third in a $35,000 career debut on the turf. Kelsey Dana, limited sampling. She's 1 for 2, 50% with the turf, 2 synthetic angle. So I just threw this one on top as you did.
Yeah, there's some class relief here. You saw a strong turf debut, so I didn't mind this horse today on this surface. And, you know, was third, beaten by 4.5, but she does well with firsters. She does well with 2-year-olds. And I think maiden second time it says 14%, but I think when you see a strong debut, I'd like to see, you know, horses that were in the money, how do they do second time out? Because I think her stats would be even stronger. And Candy Meister was the winner, who we'll see later on today in the card. So I really like this horse. I also went in the same direction, actually, in the top 3. We have them, the Stone Cold Tried today.
Well, the number 4, Wow Tap It, is dropping to this level, debuting on the Tapeta, and you're going to hear that a lot this afternoon. Let's go back and look at our last race, excuse me. Going to pick it up at the 316 pole home, and it was a sloppy track that day. See a slop, and she just closes but flattens out a little bit to finish third in the slot. A slop. I thought she ran pretty well. You know, Renee's Dream Girl looked pretty tough in that spot, so she tries to close and grab it in. I just wanted to show, sort of flattens out right here.
Flattens out, but I think kind of was up against it. You know, it was the first start since April, second career start, was originally trying to get this one on the turf. It gets to the main track, so it kind of changes the complexion, and she was closing from off the pace where Renee's Dream Girl was on the front end. So I thought it was a really game performance. Obviously, I mentioned last time out, scheduled for the turf, moved to the main track, so it gets on the Tapeta today. I think that's an interesting angle as well.
The number 2, Romance in Habana, is the daughter of Awesome, of course, debuting for Antonio Sano. A couple of swift gate work showing in preparation. Romero Mirage is going to get the riding assignment this afternoon.
The last 2 works have been really nice, especially 2 back 48 breezing. That was flat out of the gate over the wet fast main track at Palm Meadows. That was September 17th. Another gate work since then. If anything, I know Antonio Sano is usually the one that comes to bite me if I don't use him, and I think this filly seems to be training well. And we've been talking about him. I know it says 11% at the last meet, but I think when you kind of look at how his horses have been doing, say, the last month, it's a stronger percentage. I feel like when I'm losing, it's usually because Antonio Sano won.
Yeah, he's got that ability, and once he gets hot, he wins 4 or 5 races in a row, and it always seems that way. He starts an awful lot of horses, too, so
right.
The 11% might be a little skewed. He's got a lot of different mounts that he starts. Everybody's starting anew this afternoon. Race number 4 is a 6-furlong claimer for fillies, 3-year-olds with fillies and mares, 4 and up, non-winners of 3 in life, and you went with the, this is where you got your, is this your best bet? No.
This is not. This is another race. You don't have my top pick, I guess.
Chutzpah.
I use Chutzpah in here. Getting some class relief, has been at the $20,000 level those last 2 starts since the layoff. So 3 starts back. That's all the way back in February. Looking at the races in the month of August, the return to the races I thought was a pretty good performance. The winner, Jay's Indian Charm, just kind of much the best out of, I believe, out of the Georgina Baxter barn. And then last time out, this mare had some trouble. So I'm curious to see her today. She's staying at the 6 furlong distance, but this is a huge drop in class. and Victor LeBron's going to do the handling.
Yeah, she's more than long favorite. I certainly might have missed that one. I went with the number 5 if you have in second, Bionic Bottle. Excuse me. Blinkers on this afternoon for this. That was a late change. Change of barns going to the Jorge Delgado barn after the claim. Turning back to this distance of 3/4. Chase the pace and weaken against Similar going 7/8. The barn, is, I think 28% with new claims, and they got Chantal in the saddle. Looks like a good horse. And I like the fact that they put blinkers on today.
Yeah, I think blinkers will be a good move. Like you look at the last 2 starts, has been forwardly placed. A really nice win 2 starts back. Now I know that was at Tampa, and then last time out seemed to kind of fade in there in the stretch. So I think blinkers are a nice addition. You already got the correct stat, 28% first off the claim. And then Chantal and Jorge team up at 24% here the past year at Gulfstream Park. So I think this 4-year-old filly, compared to my other choice, she's lightly raced, and she's 2 for 6 in her career.
The number 7 horse in here, Takes Two to Wiggle, who has been competitive with similar qualities since notching her non-winners of 2 lifetime condition 3 starts back. Gets in light. You think she's got, I don't know if she's got, the apprentice, I think, today in the saddle, and that is Franklin Callis, and I think he might be a 2-pound apprentice right now. He was 3, I think he's 2, and I just thought her buyer figures put her right in the hunt with this group.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, when you look at this filly last year, you can make the case she was 0 for 15 with 5 third-place finishes, but this year she's 6 for 12 in the money. She has a win, 2 seconds, and 3 thirds, so she's been strong. She's good at the distance. The win seems to be kind of something that took her a while to get the second lifetime win. She only has 1 win here over the main track, but I think you have to use her underneath. We know how she is in the stretch. She really tries to grind it out, and sometimes she's able to get there, sometimes just for a minor share.
What about the 6, Beyond Magic?
Yeah, looking at Beyond Magic, this one's out of the John Vincent barn. Now, we haven't seen this one since October of 2020 at Gulfstream Park West. Finished 3rd in that last start of last year. It was well beaten in there, but the winner was kind of much the best, and really the top 2 were clear. Now, the thing that kind of intrigues me here, Miguel Vasquez in the irons has just been riding exceptionally the last couple of weeks here and just throughout the meet, but really has had some big wins the last couple of weeks. In the workout tab, I just don't know what to do with the workouts. There's been a bullet, a slow work, a bullet, a slow work, and then most recently 47 flat at Palm Meadows on September 20th. So seems to be working well. I think this one might be a price on the board just off the long layoff.
But one of the horses I'll just touch on briefly is the 2 Silver Package, who's cutting back to 3/4 today. Tracked the pace, made a fail 5-wide bid to finish 5th behind a repeat winner called Beyond Heavily going 7/8. Just keying off that race. Maybe this horse can grab a share. Lionel Reyes will be in the saddle today. So as you can see, a lot of these races are wide open affairs. I got to go back and see what I missed with Chutzpah in race number 5, race number 4, going to race number 5. This one is about 5.5 furlongs on the Tapeta surface. These are maiden special weight fillies, 2-year-olds. Starts our final pick 4 of the day. You got your ticket.
I do have a ticket. I do have a single in here as well. But in race 5, I go 3 deep. Use the number 1 Strategy Queen, the 4 Alarm Clock, as well as the number 6 for Antonio Sano. Some big pedigrees in here and some nice purchase prices as well. Race 6, I don't have any of the horses that you used in the Rainbow 6, but I go with the number 1, Sneaky Cheeky, going to be my single in here. Pretty nice winner last time out in a race originally carded for the turf, but moved to the main track. So that was interesting to see that filly perform well on the dirt. Race 7, I spread in here. I used the number 3, Light Fury, the 4, Vow Me Now. I originally also used the number 2, Madeira Wine, out of the Patrick Biancone barn. Because that's one scratched, I used the number 6 in this spot. And then to wrap things up, Caladad, the number 9, is the horse to beat, but I went in some other directions. The number 4, Chimpina, for Safi Joseph Jr., as well as the number 6, Patty K's Wild. This one's 3-1 on the morning line. I don't like the short price. She's been a little inconsistent, but looking at her races, she's going to get back on the dirt today, and she did have some good dirt races under her belt. So $13.50. I think this is one of my cheaper pick 4s in a while.
And that's a pretty good $13.50. I could afford that even. The number 4 Alarm Clock is where we'll start. This is a $125,000 daughter of Not This Time, debuting for Todd Pletcher, who's we know how good he is with his freshman runners. It says it's 0 for 2 with a real small sampling of synthetic surfaces. But as I mentioned, starting today and every day after, we're going to be, from our buddies at Progressive Handicapping, giving you sire ratings on horses that handle the Tapeta. And this one gets an A+.
Yeah, this is one by Not This Time. I mean, the horses have run well on the turf, on the dirt, but you can definitely see there's intrigue here with this being a synthetic surface and the Tapeta. And Alarm Clock, you've mentioned the numbers. Todd Pletcher with 2-year-olds, 24%, 18% in general of first-time starters, $125,000 purchase for Eclipse Thoroughbred Partners. And the work tab, this is kind of the standard work tab that we'd see. This horse was up in New Jersey at Monmouth Park, then came to Palm Beach Downs. Seems to be working well.
Working well, yeah, definitely. And you can see, I mean, you know this horse is going to take some money just when they see the connections, of course. Todd Pletcher always does. You went to the Inside Horse Strategy Queen, who's debuting under Peter, stepping up to maiden special weight. Had a pretty good duel for the lead last time out.
Dueled for the lead and just simply second best. Went off as the favorite in there, beaten by a length and a quarter, but it was certainly a step up from the debut. And when you look at that, I guess, you say maiden special weight down to 50, back up. I'm not really concerned about it, just knowing that Saffie's horses typically need that race or two. Christian Torres in the irons. I just think this one is intriguing. Now going to try a new surface. I'm not too worried about that.
Then, I think this horse will run okay there. Now, I don't know how much stock you put into these stats that we're in the daily racing form. Saffie Joseph Jr. is 0 for 5 on synthetic surfaces. But how do you gauge that? You don't know what situation that was under. So maybe it was turf races was moved to the synthetic out of the state. I mean, so we don't know.
They could have been stakes races. You know what I mean? I think a lot of these connections when you're thinking about synthetic tracks and where they are. In my guess, in some of them they were maybe in a stakes, or it was the only option for that horse when they shipped out. So I'm not going to read into those until we maybe get into a couple of weeks where we see the actual numbers start to develop.
I agree with you 100%. What about the number 5, Our Girl's Worth? It's the daughter of Uncaptured. And Uncaptured, pretty sharp sire with the Peter, I think a B or a B+. Debuting for Georgina Baxter, who's 28% with her first-time starters, 29% with her 2-year-olds, and only 11% with maiden special weight runners. They basically play the maiden claiming game more.
Yeah, she only has a limited number of 2-year-olds when you look at that.
Yeah.
It's for out of 8, but she's 2 for 8 out of that number, $1.60 ROI. She's had some workouts. They like that after some 3-furlong drills last time out, stretched out to 5 furlongs, maybe a stamina enhancing drill. Manessa's and her, they do team up at 20% here at Gulfstream Park, and it was a $60,000 purchase. So I talked about some of the purchase prices in here. You see 42, 80, 125, 60, 90. There are some bigger prices in here, so it's going to be interesting to just see how everyone fares on the surface.
Yeah, and it's about 5.5 furlong distance, just the way that where the surface was had to be put down. That's why you get these about distances and everything. So, like I say, it's going to be a learning curve for all of us when these Peter races start today. Can't wait to see the first race this afternoon. Race number 6 this afternoon is 6 furlong starter optional claimer. These are 2-year-old fillies started for 35 or less, or the optional tag of $35,000 on the main track this afternoon. You went with the number 1 horse in here, and take it away. This is your best bet of the day.
I'll be honest, when Sneaky Cheeky debuted, this was my price play. I thought she ran pretty respectable, 3rd in the debut. I know that was going on the turf 5 furlong. She was 11-1 in there, but I liked her. I followed her. Next time out, who did she have to face? Diamond Wow, who's now got a stakes win under her belt, a pretty nice horse out of the Patrick Biancone barn, and kind of keen in on that race. It actually ties back to the 5th race as well. I mentioned Diamond Wall. Opalina came back to win next time out. And the 3rd place finisher is the horse that I use in 3rd in race 5. I think that's a key race to kind of target in on. Now, Sneaky Cheeky didn't run well there last time out. Dropped her in for $35,000, but got her on the dirt. She had to face the slop. She almost circled the field. I mean, she was pretty far back early on. I didn't like seeing that as the race unfold, but she grinded it out. Edgar Zayas was a boarder in there. She was able to win by a neck in there. They're keeping her on the dirt, which I think is an intriguing move. She's a will take charge, so the dirt shouldn't have been a problem to begin with, but it just wasn't what they were aiming for. So I'm excited to see her face winners for the first time.
I was trying to get a little bit of a price with the 6 horse you have in second, Blushing Kaylin, who I believe is 5 or 6 to 1 on the morning line. Not picked in the top 4 on the bottom of the program. Drop it to the 35 level. I thought a solid pair of 75 optional claimers. She was 3rd on the fast track, 2 starts back, and a duel for the lead and week and 4th behind that horse that again next out winner. That was Last Leaf, who came back to win the Hollywood Beach for Ronnie Spatz. So of course that was on the turf. That was going 3/4 on the sealed sloppy surface. So keen off that, trying to get a price for Sharon Bolin, the trainer, Sammy Camacho in the saddle today.
Yeah, I like Blushing Kaylin. This was my second choice in here, and I honestly have to say she's the one that kind of I'm a little fearful of. I know Sneaky Cheeky's my best bet, but I think she's the next logical one to use. You mentioned last time out was 4th. Last Leaf was pretty nice here last Saturday, winning her race for Ron Spatz. But when you look at the margin, 13 1/4, you have to put it into perspective. Last Leaf won by over 10 lengths. So really, I mean, she wasn't too far out of 2nd or 3rd place in there. You mentioned it was an off track, so she hasn't really done anything wrong.
Who'd you have the stat on here? I wrote down stat, but didn't know who was on.
The next horse. So
Oh,
we'll
the
get to my
next.
next horse on the list, the number 4 Candy Meister for Gilberto Zerpa. This is one that comes out of 2 turf races, and I wanted to show the stat here specifically. It's an interesting move coming out of grass races onto the dirt the last 2 years. Gilberto is 7 for 16 with this move, 44%, 50% in the money, with a $2.15 ROI. So I always look into this because you look at a horse that's done so well on the turf, and now you decide after a win to switch surfaces. I always find that intriguing and always kind of question it, but looks like Gilberto knows what he's doing.
Yeah, 44% certainly with a positive return of investment. I also used the number 3 in here. She Nasty used a little we basically have the super just boxed around a different way. I didn't totally throw out Sneaky Cheeky in this race. I just thought She Nasty's dropping into this 35 starter allowance after following her debut victory with that 4th place finish behind Russian Kalen. That was back on August 8. Jorge Delgado was, I respect Chantal in the saddle. I thought maybe these two can run well in that spot.
Yeah, she's willing. I'm willing to give her another chance in here. I know I used her for 4th, but you mentioned last time out was 4th. But the big thing to kind of note in there, she was off slow. She had to go very wide at one point, so it came down to kind of a poor trip for her. So hopefully a better kind of navigation route, things will kind of fall into place for her and she can improve.
Race number 7, about 1 mile and 70 yards on the Tapeta. Starter allowance, 3-year-olds and up, started for 25 or less, or race since September 30th, 2019. So a bunch of different conditions in there. I, too, like you, had used Madeira wine somewhere on my ticket, been scratched out of there. You went with the number 4, Val Me Now. This one by Eddie Plisa Jr.
Yeah, nice winner last time out. I mean, Val Me Now's simply the best asset is the early foot. Usually gets to the front, and when this one can shake clear, the race is kind of over from that point, and we've seen that 3 times now this year. Gate to wire wins every single time. Now, the concern would be if Val Me Now doesn't make the lead. That's part of it. Also, we're not on the turf today. This is Tapeta. He's never raced on it, and all of his 8 wins have been on the turf. So he should be able to transfer his form. Is it a guarantee? No, nothing is. So I do think you kind of make the right move if you're going to try to beat him. I think the horse to beat him is the number 3 Light Fury.
Yeah, moving to the Tapeta today. Really consistent campaign, as you mentioned, both of them do. On the turf includes those back-to-back victories and that well-met second behind Val Me Now last time out. So that one, trained by Ronnie Spatz. You got Eddie Plisa Jr. You got top conditioners here. I think those are the logical 2 in there. I too, like you, had to scratch the 2. I used DeRoche, who's going to try to Tapeta. First start since rallying to defeat a pair of next out winners in that 35 claimer on the turf. This horse has beat me out of every trying super I've ever bet.
When you look at the way the race might pan out, obviously to me the class of the field are the 3 and the 4. The 3 usually sits off the pace. The 4, Val Me Now, he's going to try to shake clear early on, and hopefully he'll be able to do that for their connections. But the other horses, when you start looking, with the exception of the 1, they all close from off the pace. And I think when you look at DeRocher, last time out, got a beautiful trip on the turf, but was able to make that late move. So he's going to be closing from off of it, and hopefully he'll have something to run at.
Well, race number 8 this afternoon, 1 mile on the main track. Maiden claiming fillies, 3-year-olds and up, $12,500. We alluded to the performance of Calidad, being a major player in the nightcap. Let's actually go back and pick that horse up at the 8-pole home when Calidad closes, but gets beat that day. You got to rock this down. Was the 3-5 favorite that afternoon, and Kenya's son did all the dirty work throughout the whole race. Calidad closed, but I think this is an easier spot this afternoon for this horse.
Yeah, I do think this is an easier spot because when you start to look at the rest of the field, I had a tough time trying to make strong cases to beat Calidad. I think Calidad could still be beaten. I mean, you look at the record, it is an 0 for 16 maiden. But when I look at his performances, I'll make a couple things. He was in New York for most of his races, for 14 of them, but prior to coming here. Then he came here. He didn't perform well at the $25,000 level. It was his first start for the new connections. It was on the grass. And then last time out, it seemed like it kind of all went together.
Number 4, Champino, you have in second. I have in third. Is dropping to this level, getting blinkers this afternoon.
Well, the blinker angle, I mean, I think that's something to definitely note. First-time blinkers, 27% for the Saffie Joseph Jr. barn. Really hasn't shown much, though. I mean, on debut, didn't take play, which that's usually kind of a big thing to look at, was 20-1. You don't see that often for Saffie. And the next time out was the favorite and didn't perform. Now, I will say, at least last time out, this filly showed some speed and could break sharply out of the gate, but just didn't have anything left. Now, one other thing to note, both both turf races, now trying the dirt for the first time. The turf to dirt angle for the barn, 29% from a sample size of 89. So to me, this is the next horse to endorse.
You know, the number 8 Frostis is dropping to the 12.5 level today. Failed to fire behind those dead heat winners. They won it by 8.5 lengths, and that was Alluramore and Frou Fruzan. That was a 40 maiden test going 6 furlongs. Sort of was not enamored with the performance that Frou Fruzan put in on Sunday. I thought this horse would run better than it did, but drop it to the 12.5 level. I thought maybe this was a good spot for this horse.
Yeah, I feel the same way about Frou Fruzan in the last 2 efforts. I've been thinking it's going to be the day, and it hasn't been. Now, Frostis really didn't show much. We both know for the barn, they usually need a couple starts to get their maiden victories for their horses. So I know the first-time starters isn't strong. Second time, only 6% from a sample size of 50. But I will say, when you look at the field, this is certainly the horse taking the big drop in class compared to everyone else. Everyone's usually at 20, 16,000, 12.5. So Frostis, it is class relief, and I should say the connections, Kent Sweezy and Sammy Camacho, they've had some success together.
Yeah, and Patty Case Wild, you have on your ticket for Kelsey Danner.
So this one's a little bit of an oddball filly, 5 for 10 in the money, but what do you take with the last 2 starts? The last start of 2020 was in November. That was at Churchill. Was eased in there and walked off. Didn't show anything, and then last came out, tried a mile and a 16th on the turf and didn't fare well. The only argument to make, 3 for 4 in terms of in the money on a fast dirt track, and rallied off 3, you can see those consecutive second-place finishes. So I think the surface, getting back to the dirt should help, and then second time off that really long layoff.
Well, that's how we see the 8-race card. We're going to go quickly to our lightning round. And what we want to do today, the final time for at least the spring-summer meet, is show the jockey, trainer, and owner standings this afternoon to see how everybody fared. And, of course, the jockeys, it was great watching this right down to the wire. Edgar Zayas, 124, Emerson 119. But you mentioned Miguel. What a great meet he had.
I know he was in the 80s and 90s for a while. He broke 100, 102, which you say that's a big difference from Edgar and Misael. But, man, he had some multi-win days. He had a 4-day win, I think 2 Sundays ago, really riding lights out.
And I think the trainers' standings have been this way since the opening day. I mean, Safi, 71, but a great race underneath them trying to get in second. Carlos David, 35. Antonio, as you mentioned, up there with 33 wins.
Yeah, and you look at all of them, some big performances from Safi, especially earlier in the meet with his stakes runners. Carlos David and Arundel have a pretty nice horse. Octane, Antonio Sano, Papatu, but they've really done well. There was really no race. I mean, this was like Secretariat, right? Like it was 31 lengths, in this case, 36.
And the leading owner at the meet was Arundel. So Arundel, there you go, with 17 wins. Really good performance. You mentioned Octane. They had a really good meet.
Yeah, and they had some other nice horses. I can't think of the name. Something Biscayne.
Yeah.
Chantal Road won a stake. They had a really great meet. Imaginary had some nice horses with Elizabeth Nobles, and then Stonehenge with the Cajun horses, Cajun's Magic. And they also have Dean Delivers. They had a successful meet as well.
And if you didn't hear us throughout the analysis, this is the start of the inaugural Flamingo Festival. Starts today, of course, with the Tapeta surface, from now until a closing day of this meet. And then we take a little break, and we'll be back for the championship meet.
I think it's exciting to have a new meet, have a new surface. It'll be interesting to see if the riders adjust to the new surface and adjust their strategies, and maybe we'll get a new trainer on top and maybe a new jock as well.
Well, we'll see how the Tapeta plays out on Thursday and Friday, because on Saturday we got our first overnight handicap on the Tapeta surface. We'll quickly show you that field, and there you see it. And you got to figure it out here, and you got a lot of good prices up there. 5-2 is the favorite, I believe, is Drop a Hand. No, 2-1 Choose Joy, who's been exceptional on the grass.
Yeah, I'd love to own about 5 Choose Joys if I had the option to. A really nice turf runner. You mentioned Edwin Gonzalez, Drop a Hint, but then you see some other hard knockers. The one that really stands out to me, Awesome Roar, is just such a tough horse. Be interesting though to see these horses on the Tapeta. Looking at our turf races that used to be run at GPW, now they're going to be run on the Tapeta the next 2 months.
And closing it out, of course, tomorrow being Friday, another rendition of the Stronach 5 with Santa Anita in the mix.
Yeah, opening day tomorrow at Santa Anita, so excited to see all first tracks in the fold. Laurel Park has 2 legs, A and C. Gulfstream Park, just 1 leg tomorrow. We got to share it with the West Coast with Santa Anita opening. But I love it. 55 minutes from start of the first leg to the last, so a lot of action in that 1 hour.
So that is going to be an exciting weekend. It's certainly going to be an exciting day. In just about 19 minutes or so after Pete, we'll see our first Tapeta race ever here at Gulfstream Park.
in the 2 path.